Outside Earth's atmosphere, a shimmering energy field appeared, covering the entire planet. It was a protective shield created by human technology to delay any direct assault. Small fighter ships launched from hidden bases across Earth, swarming toward the Zarkthon fleet. Commander Ward watched as the first wave of human fighters engaged the Zarkthons. The enemy's ships were larger and more advanced, but humans had something the Zarkthons didn't: determination. The human pilots fought bravely, dodging enemy fire and attacking with precision. Inside his flagship, Commander Zalthar watched the battle with amusement. "Is this all they have?" he sneered. "Their ships are nothing compared to ours." The Zarkthons began firing on Earth's shield, their massive energy cannons blasting beams of dark energy toward the planet. The shield flickered, holding for now, but it wouldn't last forever. The Zarkthons believed it was only a matter of time before they broke through and rained destruction on the humans below. In the command center, General Hawkins turned to Commander Ward. "The shield won't hold much longer. Should we start the counterattack?" Ward shook her head. "Not yet. We need to wait until they're fully committed. Let them think they're winning." The Zarkthons, growing more confident with each passing moment, pushed harder. Their ships advanced closer to Earth, their weapons firing non-stop. They didn't know that they were walking straight into a trap. Suddenly, an explosion rocked one of the Zarkthon ships. A human fighter had broken through their defenses, delivering a powerful hit. More human fighters swarmed in, taking out several smaller Zarkthon vessels. The humans were fighting back harder than the Zarkthons expected. Commander Zalthar's smug expression turned into a snarl. "Increase firepower!" he shouted. "Destroy them all!" The Zarkthons unleashed a massive barrage of energy blasts, shaking the Earth's shield to its core. The shield was now flickering, cracks appearing in the energy field. It wouldn't hold much longer. But Commander Ward remained calm. This was exactly what they had been waiting for. "They're close enough," she said quietly, her eyes fixed on the screen. "It's time." She turned to Dr. Elena Moore, who stood ready by a control panel. "Activate Project Helios." Dr. Moore nodded and pressed a series of buttons. Far above Earth, hidden in the vastness of space, the Helios satellite began to hum with power, collecting the energy of the sun. The Zarkthons thought they had the upper hand, but they were about to learn the true meaning of human ingenuity. The real battle was just about to begin. The moment had come. Earth's defenses were holding by a thread, the Zarkthon fleet relentlessly hammering the planet's shield. Inside the underground command center, Commander Rachel Ward stood tall, her heart racing as she watched the battle unfold on the screen. The Zarkthons had drawn close, confident that victory was near. But they had no idea what was about to hit them. "Project Helios is fully charged," Dr. Elena Moore reported, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "We're ready to fire on your command, Commander." Commander Ward's eyes narrowed as she focused on the Zarkthon fleet. They had underestimated humanity, treating Earth like a backwater planet with no real power. Now it was time to show them the true strength of the humans, the very power they despised: sunlight. "Fire the Helios Beam," Ward ordered, her voice calm but filled with resolve. Far above Earth, the massive Helios satellite, hidden in orbit around the sun, began to move. Its panels opened wide, gathering more solar energy than ever before. The air around it crackled with raw power as it focused the sunlight into a concentrated beam, aimed directly at the Zarkthon fleet. Inside his flagship, Commander Zalthar was still smug. He watched as his ships drew closer to breaking Earth's defenses. "Prepare for final bombardment," he ordered. "Soon this Dirtworld will be nothing but ash." Suddenly, alarms blared across the Zarkthon ships. Zalthar's smug expression faded as he glanced at the control panels. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Why are the sensors going off?" But before anyone could answer, a blinding light filled the space above Earth. The Helios Beam had been unleashed. It tore through the darkness of space like a spear of pure energy, so bright it seemed to set the stars ablaze. The Zarkthon fleet, built for the cold and darkness of their sunless worlds, was directly in its path. The beam hit the first Zarkthon warship, and it was as if the sun itself had collided with it. The ship's hull, designed to withstand energy attacks, began to melt under the intense heat. Within seconds, the entire ship was consumed in a fiery explosion, its dark metal turning to molten slag. One by one, the Zarkthon ships in the beam's path were obliterated. Some tried to evade, but the Helios Beam moved too fast, its deadly accuracy targeting each vessel with pinpoint precision. Ships that had once been symbols of the Zarkthon's might were now burning wrecks, drifting lifeless in the void. On Earth, cheers erupted in the command center as the humans watched the destruction of their enemy's fleet. General Hawkins slammed his fist on the table, grinning from ear to ear. "That's what they get for underestimating us," he shouted. But Commander Ward remained focused. "Don't celebrate yet," she warned. "We've taken out a good portion of their fleet, but there are still ships out there." She was right. While the Helios Beam had destroyed many of the Zarkthon warships, several still remained. They had pulled back, trying to regroup. But the damage had already been done. Their confidence shattered, their arrogance turned to fear. On board his crippled flagship, Commander Zalthar stared in disbelief at the devastation around him. His entire fleet, one of the most powerful in the galaxy, had been decimated by a weapon he had never even imagined. How did they do this?" he muttered, his hands shaking. The answer was clear now. The humans had not been weak. They had been waiting, preparing a counter-strike that no one had seen coming. And now, their sun, the very source of life on Earth, had become a weapon of mass destruction. Back in the command center, Commander Ward turned to Dr. Moore. "Prepare the Helios Beam for another strike. Let's finish this." Dr. Moore nodded, her hands moving quickly across the control panel. The Helios satellite began to recharge, gathering more solar energy for another devastating attack. The Zarkthons, once so sure of their superiority, were now on the defensive. Their ships were retreating, desperately trying to escape the wrath of the sun. But there was no escape. The humans had unleashed the fury of their star, and there was nowhere in the galaxy that the Zarkthons could hide from its light. As the Helios Beam powered up once more, Commander Ward's voice echoed through the command center. "This is for Earth." The Galactic Council sat in their grand chamber, a vast room filled with representatives from different species across the galaxy. They watched the holographic screens showing the battle above Earth, their faces a mix of disbelief and shock. The Zarkthon fleet, once thought to be invincible, was being annihilated by the very species they had dismissed as a dirt world. "Look at the screens!" shouted Counselor Traylon, a tall, blue-skinned alien with shimmering scales. "The Zarkthons are losing! This is impossible!" On the screen, explosions lit up space as another Zarkthon ship was struck by the Helios Beam. The council members could hardly believe their eyes. They had been so sure that humans were weak and unworthy, but now it was clear they had been wrong. "Commander Zalthar has always boasted about their might," said Counselor Viltra, a round creature with many eyes. How could he let this happen? Why did he underestimate the humans? "Because he thought they were just an annoying species," replied Counselor Jael, "an insectoid with sharp mandibles. He never considered that they could be a threat. Now look where that arrogance has brought us." The council was in chaos. Representatives shouted at one another, debating what to do next. Some demanded a rescue mission for the Zarkthon fleet, while others suggested a preemptive strike against Earth to prevent any further escalation. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the atmosphere in the command center was electric. Commander Rachel Ward and her team were riding the high of their unexpected victory. The Helios Beam had changed the course of the battle, and now they were ready to push their advantage. "Prepare for another shot," Ward commanded, her eyes glued to the screens showing the retreating Zarkthon ships. "Let's send them a message. They cannot come back to Earth." Dr. Elena Moore worked quickly, inputting commands to charge the Helios satellite once more. "We're ready," she said, excitement tinged with caution. "But we must be careful not to overdo it. We don't want to destroy our own atmosphere." Ward nodded. "I understand. But we need to make sure they understand the consequences of their actions. They will think twice before attacking us again." Back at the Galactic Council, the representatives were still arguing. Counselor Traylon stood up, slamming his fist on the table. "This is a disaster! We cannot allow humans to gain any more power. We must unite and take action against them." "Unite?" scoffed Counselor Jael. "Do you really think that will work? We have always seen humans as inferior. Now we must rethink our strategy. If we do not approach this carefully, we will create an enemy we cannot defeat." As they debated, news arrived from the Zarkthon flagship. The council watched as Commander Zalthar's voice echoed across the chamber, filled with anger and desperation. We are losing ships. We need immediate support. We cannot let these humans stand against us. We are the Zarkthons! But the council members were silent, their thoughts racing. They had underestimated humanity, and now they had to face the truth. The humans had turned their sun into a weapon, and the consequences were more severe than they had imagined. Suddenly, the holographic screens flickered and changed. The council gasped as they watched the Helios Beam fire again, striking another Zarkthon ship, causing it to explode in a brilliant display of light. The Zarkthon fleet was crumbling before their eyes, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. "Look!" Counselor Viltra cried. "They are showing strength we never expected. This changes everything." The room buzzed with tension. Representatives began to realize that their views of humans needed to change. They could no longer dismiss them as mere dirt dwellers. Humans had proven their resilience, their ingenuity, and their power. "We must rethink our alliances," Counselor Traylon said, his voice low. "We cannot allow this to escalate further. We should reach out to the humans and offer a chance for peace." But it was too late. The damage had been done. The Galactic Council would have to deal with the aftermath of their arrogance, and the fear of humanity's potential now hung heavy in the air. As the battle continued, the humans below cheered, knowing that their fight was far from over. The Zarkthon threat would not easily fade, but they had struck a blow that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. Earth was no longer just a dirt world, it was a planet that could unleash the fury of the sun itself. And the Galactic Council would never look at humanity the same way again. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was packed with representatives from dozens of species, each with their own culture, technology, and pride. At the center of attention was the Zarkthon delegate, a tall, pale figure with large black eyes and thin, gray skin. The Zarkthons came from cold, dark planets far from their system's sun, and they had always looked down on species that lived on warm, sun-filled worlds. Today they had one target, Earth. The Zarkthon representative stood, glancing around the room with a smug expression before beginning to speak. "It is a wonder," he said slowly, his voice echoing through the chamber, "that a species like humans could ever be considered for serious discussion in this council. After all, they come from a dirt world." Laughter filled the room. The Zarkthons had made this insult famous, and today they were throwing it straight at Earth's representatives. A dirt world was their way of saying Earth was primitive, backward, and unworthy of respect. For the Zarkthons, who lived on planets shrouded in darkness, Earth's bright sun and green landscapes were seen as weaknesses, not strengths. The humans remained silent. Their leader, a calm and composed woman named Commander Rachel Ward, sat at the front of the Earth delegation. She clenched her fists under the table but did not respond. She knew this was not the time to react emotionally. They had a plan, but for now they had to listen. "We, the Zarkthons, live on superior worlds," the Zarkthon continued, "worlds where the sun is nothing but a distant star. We have evolved in the shadows, building a civilization that thrives in darkness. We do not need sunlight to survive. But humans, you need light, warmth, and—" He paused for dramatic effect. "Dirt." More laughter erupted from the council. The Zarkthons were enjoying themselves, and many of the other alien species seemed entertained by the mockery. The humans, however, remained still. Some of the younger delegates looked frustrated, their faces turning red, but Commander Ward shot them a look, signaling them to remain calm. The Zarkthon delegate's voice grew louder, his tone more aggressive. "Humans claim to be advanced, but what have they achieved? A few colonies? Some minor technological progress? They live on a planet covered in dirt, water, and unstable weather. They are weak, fragile creatures who cannot even survive without their precious sunlight. They are nothing compared to the Zarkthons, and they never will be." This time, the laughter from the crowd was thunderous. The Zarkthons had made their point clear. Earth and its people were beneath them. They were nothing more than a joke in the eyes of the galaxy. But the humans had heard enough. Commander Ward stood slowly, her face calm but her eyes cold and focused. The laughter in the room died down as she raised her hand. She didn't say anything at first. She simply looked at the Zarkthon delegate and then around the room, meeting the eyes of every species watching. "Thank you for your words," she said, her voice steady and controlled. "It's clear that the Zarkthons have strong opinions about Earth and its people, but I would like to remind this council that actions speak louder than words." She paused for a moment. letting the silence hang in the air. We do not need to defend ourselves with insults or mockery. We prefer to let our achievements do the talking. Some murmurs spread through the room, the mood shifting slightly. The Zarkthon delegate sneered. Achievements? What achievements, Commander? You live on a ball of dirt, orbiting a star that will eventually destroy you. You are nothing. Commander Ward smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. We shall see, she said softly. In time, you will see just what humans are capable of. I only hope that when that time comes, the Zarkthons are ready for the consequences. With that, she sat down, and the room fell into an uneasy silence. The Zarkthons had thrown the first insult, but the humans were not going to forget it. They were patient, but they would strike when the moment was right. For now, the Zarkthons had no idea what was coming for them. The Earth may be a dirt world, but it was about to prove that it was far more dangerous than anyone imagined. Back on Earth, the insult from the Zarkthons was still fresh in the minds of its leaders. In a high-tech underground facility hidden deep beneath the surface, a secret meeting was taking place. Commander Rachel Ward, who had faced the Zarkthons in the Galactic Council, was leading the meeting. Around her sat Earth's top scientists, military generals, and strategists. They had all gathered with one goal in mind, to make sure the Zarkthons paid for their arrogance. "We can't let this go," General Hawkins said, slamming his fist on the table. "They think we're weak. They think Earth is just some dirt world. We need to show them they're wrong." The room was tense. Everyone knew the stakes were high. The Zarkthons were a powerful race, but humans had something they didn't: creativity, determination, and a deep understanding of their enemies' weaknesses. "We need to be smart about this," Commander Ward said, her voice calm but firm. "The Zarkthons live on dark, cold planets. They hate the sun. If we're going to strike back, we need to use what we have that they can't handle: our sunlight." The scientists in the room exchanged glances. They had been working on something big for months, and now was the time to reveal it. Dr. Elena Moore, one of Earth's leading physicists, stood up and approached a large screen. With a few taps, she brought up a holographic image of a giant satellite floating in space, absorbing solar energy. "This is Project Helios," Dr. Moore said, as everyone in the room leaned in to listen. "We've been working on a way to weaponize solar energy. The Zarkthons think sunlight is harmless, but with this satellite, we can collect and focus the sun's rays into a powerful beam, strong enough to destroy entire cities on their planets." The room was silent for a moment, absorbing the information. Then General Hawkins let out a low whistle. "That's some serious firepower." Dr. Moore nodded. "The Zarkthon cities are built in dark, cold places. If we hit them with concentrated sunlight, their entire infrastructure will collapse. They won't be able to handle the heat. It's their greatest weakness, and they don't even know it." Commander Ward smiled slightly. "Perfect. They think we're just dirt dwellers, but we'll use the very thing they hate most, the sun, to bring them down." "But how do we do this without starting a full-scale war?" one of the other generals asked. "We can't just attack out of nowhere. We need a reason." Commander Ward nodded. "You're right. We can't be the ones to throw the first punch, or the entire Galactic Council will turn against us. But we know the Zarkthons. They're arrogant. They'll attack us eventually, thinking we're easy targets. When they do, we'll be ready." The plan was clear. They would wait for the Zarkthons to strike first, and then retaliate with Project Helios. The satellite was already in place, hidden in orbit around the sun, collecting energy. All they needed was the right moment to unleash it. As the meeting went on, they discussed the finer details of the plan. Earth's defenses would need to be strengthened in case of an invasion. They would also send out false signals, making it look like humans were weaker than they really were. The goal was to trick the Zarkthons into thinking that Earth was an easy target. "Our biggest strength is that the Zarkthons underestimate us," Commander Ward said. "They don't see us as a real threat. That's their mistake, and we're going to use it against them." As the meeting came to a close, everyone in the room knew what needed to be done. The insult at the Galactic Council had sparked something in the hearts of humanity. They were no longer just defending their pride. They were planning to strike back in a way that the Zarkthons would never see coming. The world outside continued as normal, but deep underground, Earth's leaders were preparing for war. And this time, they had the power of the sun on their side. The Zarkthons had been planning their move ever since the Galactic Council meeting. To them, humans were nothing more than an annoyance, a lesser species that didn't deserve to stand among the stars. It was time to teach them a lesson. Far above Earth, in the cold void of space, a fleet of Zarkthon warships appeared. Their massive dark gray vessels looked like moving shadows, blending into the darkness of space. There were hundreds of them, each armed with powerful weapons, built to conquer and destroy. The Zarkthons had one goal: to make Earth pay for standing against them. On board the Zarkthon flagship, Commander Zalthar, a cold and calculating leader, gave the order. Prepare for the invasion. Earth is a dirt world, fragile and weak. We will crush them before they even know we're here. The Zarkthons, confident in their strength, didn't expect much resistance. In their eyes, humans were primitive beings, tied to the sun and dirt of their homeworld. But they were about to make a grave mistake. As the Zarkthon fleet began its descent toward Earth, alarms sounded across the planet. The Earth Defense Force, already prepared for this moment, sprang into action. In the underground command center, Commander Rachel Ward stood before a massive screen showing the approaching Zarkthon fleet. "They're here," said one of the officers, his voice tense. Commander Ward nodded, her face calm but her mind racing. This was exactly what they had been waiting for. "Activate the planetary shields," she ordered. "Deploy our fighters, but hold back the full counterattack."